The sun had barely crested the horizon over Willowbrook Valley when rancher Marcus Fletcher heard the most bone-chilling sound he'd experienced in 30 years of cattle farming. It wasn't the usual morning lowing of his herd or the familiar sounds of animals stirring to life. This was a desperate, terrified bawling that cut through the morning air like a knife, sending chills down his spine and triggering every parental instinct he possessed. Marcus dropped his coffee mug on the porch steps and ran toward the source of the distress calls, his boots pounding across the dewy grass as adrenaline surged through his 60-year-old frame. The cries were coming from the far pasture where his prized brown Swiss calves spent their nights under the protective watch of Goliath, his massive Angus bull who had served as the herd's guardian for the past 8 years. As Marcus crested the small hill that overlooked the grazing area, the scene that greeted him defied every natural expectation he had about his peaceful Montana ranch. There in the center of the pasture, a massive Burmese python, easily 20 feet long and as thick as a telephone pole, had wrapped itself around little Buttercup, his youngest brown Swiss calf. The 6-month-old heifer was struggling desperately, her brown and white coat already showing the deadly pressure of the serpent's coils. But what Marcus saw next made him question his own eyes. Goliath, his 2,400-pound Angus bull, wasn't standing helplessly nearby, as most cattle would when faced with such an unprecedented threat. Instead, the massive black bull was circling the python with deliberate, calculated movements, his head lowered in a fighting stance that Marcus had never seen before. Goliath's nostrils flared with each breath, steam rising from his muzzle in the cool morning air as he assessed this alien predator that had invaded his territory. The python, sensing the approaching danger, tightened its grip on Buttercup while raising its massive head to face this new challenger. The sight of a 20-foot python confronting a 1-ton bull in the middle of a Montana pasture was so surreal that Marcus had to blink several times to convince himself he wasn't dreaming. This was the kind of encounter that belonged in exotic documentaries, not on a ranch in the American heartland. Marcus fumbled for his cell phone, knowing he needed help immediately, but unsure who to call for a situation that had no precedent in his experience. His fingers trembled as he dialed 911, trying to explain to the dispatcher that a giant python was attacking his livestock while his bull prepared for battle. The words sounded insane even as he spoke them, but the evidence was writhing and snorting just 50 yards away. 911, what's your emergency? Came the calm professional voice. This is Marcus Fletcher on Route 47 outside Willowbrook Valley, he gasped, never taking his eyes off the unfolding drama. I have a massive python attacking my calf, and I need environmental officers here immediately. This thing is 20 feet long, and it's killing my animal. The dispatcher's pause was barely perceptible, but Marcus caught it. Sir, did you say a python? Can you confirm your location? Montana, Willowbrook Valley, Fletcher Ranch, Marcus repeated urgently. I know how it sounds, but I'm watching it happen right now. Send whoever handles exotic animal emergencies, because this snake is huge, and my bull is about to attack it. As Marcus provided his exact coordinates and tried to convince the dispatcher this wasn't a prank call, Goliath made his first move. The massive bull charged forward with surprising speed for an animal of his size, his head aimed directly at the python's middle section. The impact when Goliath's skull connected with the serpent's body was audible even from Marcus's position, a hollow thud that echoed across the pasture like a sledgehammer hitting a tree trunk. The python's response was immediate and terrifying. Its head whipped around with lightning speed, fangs bared as it struck at Goliath's face. But the bull had anticipated this reaction, pulling his head back just enough to avoid the serpent's bite while using his massive weight to press down on the python's body. The strategy was crude but effective. Goliath was using his size advantage to prevent the snake from maintaining its deadly grip on Buttercup. What happened next would be seared into Marcus's memory forever and would soon capture the attention of wildlife experts around the world. What do you think a 2,400-pound bull can do against a 20-foot python when protecting his herd? The clash between Goliath and the massive python unfolded like something from a nature documentary that had never been filmed before. Marcus watched in amazement as his bull demonstrated intelligence and courage that challenged everything he thought he knew about cattle behavior. This wasn't just instinctual aggression. Goliath was fighting with strategy, using his massive size and weight as tactical advantages against an opponent that defied every natural threat his species had evolved to handle. The python, realizing it was now fighting for its own survival rather than simply securing a meal, began to release its grip on Buttercup. The young calf stumbled away from the coils, gasping and traumatized but alive, her legs shaky as she struggled to distance herself from the nightmare that had nearly cost her life. Goliath immediately positioned himself between the snake and the retreating calf, his massive frame serving as a living shield, while his attention remained focused on the writhing serpent. Marcus could see the python's strategy shifting as it realized brute force wouldn't work against an opponent this size. The snake began to coil around Goliath's front legs, attempting to use its constricting power against the bull's mobility. But Goliath had observed the python's attack on Buttercup and seemed to understand the danger. Instead of panicking, the bull began a systematic assault, using his hooves to stomp on the python's body while twisting his powerful neck to prevent the snake from gaining purchase around his throat. The sound of the battle was unlike anything Marcus had ever heard. The deep bellowing of an enraged bull mixed with the angry hissing of a giant serpent, punctuated by the dull impacts of hooves against flesh and the scraping of scales against the rough pasture ground. Other cattle in the nearby paddocks had gathered at the fence line, watching this unprecedented confrontation with the wide-eyed attention of spectators at a gladiatorial contest. If you're finding this incredible story as unbelievable as Marcus did while watching it unfold, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. These real-life animal encounters show us that nature is full of surprises, and your support helps us share more of these amazing stories with the world. Every subscription and like helps us continue bringing you tales that prove wildlife behavior can be more extraordinary than any fiction ever written. Marcus's phone buzzed with an incoming call from the dispatcher, but he couldn't tear his attention away from the battle long enough to answer. The python had managed to wrap one coil around Goliath's right front leg, and Marcus could see the immense pressure being applied as the snake's muscles contracted. But instead of struggling against the constriction, Goliath did something that demonstrated remarkable problem-solving ability. He deliberately fell to his side, using his massive weight to pin the python's body against the ground. The tactical brilliance of this move became apparent immediately. With the python's body pinned beneath nearly a ton of bull, the snake couldn't apply its full constricting power, and it couldn't maneuver to attack Goliath's vital areas. The bull had essentially turned his own weight into a weapon, neutralizing the python's primary advantage through what could only be described as calculated strategy. But the python wasn't finished. With its body partially trapped, the serpent focused all its remaining mobility on its most dangerous weapon, its head. The snake's skull, easily the size of a dinner plate, struck repeatedly at Goliath's face and neck, each impact accompanied by the sharp crack of fangs against hide. Marcus watched in horror as thin lines of blood appeared on the bull's muzzle where the python's teeth had found their mark. Goliath's response to these attacks revealed another layer of intelligence that left Marcus speechless. Instead of trying to avoid the python's strikes, the bull began using his massive head as a battering ram, meeting each of the snake's attacks with deliberate headbutts that drove the serpent's skull into the hard-packed earth. The strategy was dangerous but effective. Each collision stunned the python momentarily, while causing no significant injury to the bull's much thicker skull. The arrival of sirens in the distance announced that help was finally coming, but Marcus wasn't sure any human intervention could improve on what Goliath was already accomplishing. His bull was winning this impossible battle through a combination of raw power, tactical thinking, and sheer determination that challenged every assumption about cattle intelligence and protective instincts. As the emergency vehicles grew closer, Marcus realized he was witnessing something that would reshape scientific understanding of animal behavior. This wasn't just a bull defending his herd. This was evidence of cognitive abilities and problem-solving skills that most experts would have declared impossible for cattle to possess. Do you think Goliath's innovative fighting tactics will be enough to defeat a predator that evolution never prepared him to face? The cavalcade of emergency vehicles that roared up Marcus's gravel driveway looked like something from a disaster movie. 3 Montana fish, Wildlife and Parks trucks led the procession, followed by two county sheriff's vehicles, an ambulance, and bringing up the rear, a specialized animal control unit from the state university. The sight of so many flashing lights converging on his peaceful ranch would have been overwhelming under normal circumstances. But Marcus was grateful for any help that might save both Goliath and ensure the python didn't escape to threaten other livestock. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the lead wildlife biologist, emerged from the first truck with equipment Marcus had never seen before. Tranquilizer guns, specialized hooks, and what appeared to be a portable crane. Her team moved with the efficiency of professionals who had dealt with exotic animal emergencies, though Marcus suspected none of them had ever faced a situation quite like this. The expression on Dr. Vasquez's face as she surveyed the ongoing battle confirmed his suspicion. Even the experts were stunned by what they were witnessing. Mr. Fletcher, Dr. Vasquez called as she approached, her eyes never leaving the incredible scene in the pasture. How long has this been going on? About 20 minutes, Marcus replied, his voice hoarse from shouting encouragement to Goliath. The snake had my calf wrapped up tight, but Goliath, that's my bull, he's been fighting it off ever since. Dr. Vasquez raised her binoculars to get a better view of the combat, and Marcus watched her professional composure crack slightly as she processed what she was seeing. That bull is using advanced problem-solving techniques, she muttered, more to herself than to Marcus. He's systematically neutralizing the python's advantages while maximizing his own. This behavior is unprecedented in cattle. The python and Goliath had reached what appeared to be a stalemate. The bull's weight continued to pin significant portions of the snake's body, while the serpent maintained a defensive coil around Goliath's front leg. Both animals were breathing heavily, their endurance being tested by a battle that neither had been evolutionarily designed to fight. Steam rose from both combatants in the cool morning air, evidence of the incredible energy being expended in this life-or-death struggle. Sheriff Deputy Jake Morrison approached with his radio crackling. Dr. Vasquez, we've got news about your python. State Fish and Game traced several exotic animal trafficking reports from 3 states. This snake was reported stolen from a private collector in Wyoming 2 weeks ago. They think it escaped during transport and has been surviving in the wild since then. The revelation that this was an escaped captive python, rather than some impossible native species, explained how such a massive serpent had ended up in Montana, but it also raised new concerns about public safety. If this python had been at large for 2 weeks, it could have been responsible for missing livestock reports that had been attributed to wolves or bears. Dr. Vasquez's team began setting up their equipment while maintaining a safe distance from the ongoing battle. We need to separate them without injuring either animal, she explained to Marcus. That bull has shown remarkable intelligence in this fight, but prolonged stress could still be dangerous for both animals. The plan that emerged involved a carefully coordinated approach using tranquilizer darts and mechanical restraints. Dr. Vasquez would target the python with a specialized dart designed for large reptiles, while her team used extending poles and hooks to begin separating the animals once the snake was sedated. The challenge was timing the intervention so that Goliath wasn't accidentally injured by the disoriented python. But as the team prepared their equipment, Goliath demonstrated that he wasn't finished with his own problem-solving. The massive bull began a new tactic that left even Dr. Vasquez speechless. He started deliberately rolling his body in specific directions, using the uneven ground to his advantage. Each roll applied pressure to different sections of the python's body, while preventing the snake from adjusting its grip or position. He's using the terrain as a tool, Dr. Vasquez observed with scientific amazement. That bull is demonstrating spatial awareness and tactical planning that we've never documented in cattle behavior studies. The python, caught off guard by this new strategy, began to loosen its grip as Goliath's systematic rolling made it impossible for the snake to maintain effective coils. Marcus could see the moment when the serpent realized its position was becoming untenable. The massive head began searching for an escape route, while the body struggled to disengage from the bull's relentless pressure. Now, Dr. Vasquez called to her team. The snake is starting to retreat. This is our window. The environmental officers moved in with military precision, their years of training evident in how they approached 2 exhausted and dangerous animals. But even as professional help finally arrived, Marcus couldn't take his eyes off Goliath, who continued to show intelligence and determination that would forever change how he viewed the animals he'd spent his life raising. How do you think trained wildlife professionals will handle separating a battle-tested bull from a 20-foot python that's fighting for its life? Dr. Vasquez's team approached the battling animals with the careful precision of surgeons entering an operating room. The lead wildlife biologist had handled everything from escaped circus elephants to illegally imported big cats. But the sight of a Montana bull systematically outmaneuvering a 20-foot python required her to abandon most of her standard protocols and improvise solutions for a scenario that existed nowhere in her training manuals. "Richardson, get the net gun ready, but don't deploy until I give the signal," she instructed her senior technician. "Martinez, prepare the snake hook extensions. We're going to need maximum reach for this operation, and someone keep that tranquilizer gun trained on the python's head section. But do not fire unless I specifically authorize it." The challenge facing the team was unlike any wildlife separation they had attempted before. Typically, their interventions involved subduing a single aggressive animal or separating animals of similar species. But this situation required them to safely extract a 20-foot python from combat with a bull that had proven remarkably effective at neutralizing the snake's advantages through tactical intelligence. Marcus watched the professionals work while keeping one eye on Goliath, who seemed to sense that help had arrived but showed no intention of releasing his hold on the python until he was certain the threat was neutralized. The bull's breathing was labored from exertion, but his grip on the tactical advantage he had gained remained firm. Steam continued to rise from his massive frame as his body heat evaporated the morning dew that had collected on his black hide. "Mr. Fletcher," Dr. Vasquez called without taking her eyes off the animals, "I need you to try calling your bull away from the snake. We want to see if he'll respond to your voice and create some separation voluntarily." Marcus had serious doubts about Goliath's willingness to abandon his defensive position, but he understood the wisdom of trying the least invasive approach first. "Goliath," he called in the firm but calm tone he used for routine cattle management. "Come on, boy, easy now." The massive bull's ears swiveled toward Marcus's voice, and for a moment it seemed like he might actually respond to the familiar command. But then the python made a sudden movement, attempting to use Goliath's momentary distraction to readjust its position, and the bull immediately refocused on his opponent with renewed intensity. "He won't leave until he's sure the threat is neutralized," Marcus explained. "Goliath's been the herd protector for 8 years. He's not going to abandon his post while that snake is still moving." Dr. Vasquez nodded with professional understanding. "Then we proceed to phase 2. Richardson, deploy the net gun to immobilize the python's head section. Martinez, as soon as the head is contained, start working on separating the coils with the hooks." The net gun deployment was a marvel of precision technology. The weighted net expanded in flight to cover the python's massive head and upper body, immediately limiting the snake's ability to strike while providing the team with mechanical control over the most dangerous part of the serpent. The python's response was immediate and violent, thrashing against the restraints with enough force to drag Richardson several feet before the rest of the team could assist with the lines. Goliath's reaction to seeing the python's head restrained was fascinating from a behavioral perspective. Instead of maintaining his defensive posture, the bull began deliberately loosening his own grip on the snake's body, as if he understood that the human intervention had changed the tactical situation. This level of situational awareness and adaptive behavior challenged every assumption about cattle intelligence that Dr. Vasquez had developed during her career. "The bull is actively cooperating with our intervention," she reported into her radio for the benefit of her supervisors back at headquarters. "He's demonstrating cognitive abilities that warrant immediate behavioral study once this emergency is resolved." With the python's head secured, Martinez and the rest of the team began the delicate process of using mechanical hooks to separate the snake's coils from Goliath's body. Each section of serpent that was freed was immediately secured with additional restraints, preventing the python from re-establishing its grip while ensuring that no sudden movements could injure the bull. The process took nearly an hour, with each step requiring careful coordination between the human team and Goliath's continued cooperation. The bull remained motionless during the most delicate phases of the separation, seeming to understand that sudden movements could endanger both himself and the humans working to resolve the situation. "Last coil coming free," Martinez announced as he worked the final section of python away from Goliath's front leg. Snake is fully separated and secured. The moment of complete separation was anticlimactic after the drama of the preceding battle. Goliath slowly rose to his feet, shaking himself like a dog emerging from water, then turned to check on Buttercup, who had been watching the entire intervention from the safety of the far fence line. The bull's priorities were clear: ensure the calf's safety first, then assess his own condition. Dr. Vasquez's preliminary examination of both animals revealed the remarkable fact that neither had suffered serious injury despite the intensity of their conflict. The python showed signs of bruising and stress, but no broken bones or internal damage. Goliath had several superficial cuts on his muzzle and some swelling around his front leg, but nothing that wouldn't heal completely with proper care. Do you think this incredible encounter will change how scientists view animal intelligence and problem-solving abilities in livestock? The python, now fully restrained and contained in a specialized transport cage, measured exactly 19 feet and 4 inches, making it one of the largest Burmese pythons ever documented in the American Northwest. Dr. Vasquez and her team worked methodically to assess the snake's condition while preparing it for relocation to a secure facility equipped to handle exotic species of this magnitude. The serpent's remarkable size explained how it had been able to threaten livestock, but it also raised serious questions about exotic animal trafficking and the dangers posed by escaped captive wildlife. Marcus stood beside Goliath, running his hands over the bull's massive frame to check for injuries while marveling at his animal's resilience and intelligence. The cuts on Goliath's muzzle were already beginning to clot, and the swelling around his front leg appeared to be minor. More importantly, the bull's demeanor had returned to his normal calm confidence, though he maintained a protective position between the humans and the restrained python. Mr. Fletcher, Dr. Vasquez approached with a tablet computer displaying preliminary data from her team's assessment. I want you to understand what we just witnessed here. Your bull demonstrated cognitive abilities and problem-solving skills that challenge fundamental assumptions about cattle intelligence. This encounter will likely be studied by animal behaviorists for years to come. The implications of Goliath's performance extended far beyond the immediate crisis. Cattle were generally considered to be reactive animals with limited capacity for complex problem-solving, but the tactical awareness and adaptive strategies the bull had displayed suggested much higher cognitive abilities than previously documented. Dr. Vasquez had already contacted colleagues at 3 universities to discuss potential research collaborations. Sheriff Deputy Morrison approached with his incident report, shaking his head in amazement. Marcus, in 20 years of law enforcement, I've never written a report quite like this one. Local bull defeats 20-foot python in tactical combat isn't exactly standard paperwork. If you're as amazed by this incredible story as the professionals who witnessed it, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. These extraordinary animal encounters remind us that nature still holds surprises that can change our understanding of wildlife behavior forever. Your support helps us continue sharing these remarkable stories that prove animals are far more intelligent and capable than we often realize. The media attention began almost immediately. Word of the python encounter had spread through emergency radio channels, and by early afternoon, reporters from 3 local news stations had arrived at Marcus's ranch. The story of a Montana bull defeating a giant python in single combat was exactly the kind of unusual news that captured public imagination, especially when supported by eyewitness accounts from trained wildlife professionals. Dr. Vasquez found herself serving as both scientific expert and spokesperson for the incident. What we observe today challenges our understanding of cattle cognition, she explained to the gathering reporters. This bull didn't just react instinctively, he adapted his tactics in real time, used environmental features as tools, and demonstrated situational awareness that suggests much higher intelligence than we typically attribute to livestock. The python's backstory emerged through investigation by state wildlife officials. The snake had indeed been stolen from a private collector in Wyoming who specialized in exotic reptiles for educational programs. The theft had occurred during transport to a university research facility, with the python escaping when the thieves abandoned the transport vehicle after a high-speed chase. For 2 weeks, the massive serpent had been surviving in the wild, likely feeding on small livestock and deer. This incident highlights serious issues with exotic animal trafficking and the dangers posed when these animals escape into environments where they don't belong, explained Captain Sarah Williams from the State Wildlife Enforcement Division. A 20-foot python has no natural predators in Montana and could have caused significant ecological damage if not contained. Buttercup, the young calf whose near-death experience had triggered the entire confrontation, was examined by Dr. Sarah Chen, a veterinarian specializing in large animal trauma. The calf showed no serious injuries from her encounter with the python, though she would require monitoring for potential psychological effects from the traumatic experience. Young cattle can develop long-term behavioral issues after traumatic encounters, Dr. Chen explained to Marcus. But the fact that Goliath intervened so quickly likely prevented more serious physical and psychological damage. That bull may have saved this calf's life in more ways than one. The scientific implications of Goliath's behavior continued to unfold as Dr. Vasquez reviewed video footage captured by her team's cameras. The bull's systematic approach to neutralizing the python's advantages suggested planning abilities and tactical thinking that warranted immediate research. 3 universities had already expressed interest in studying Goliath's cognitive abilities through non-invasive behavioral testing. We're looking at potentially groundbreaking discoveries about animal intelligence, Dr. Vasquez explained to Marcus. Would you be willing to participate in some behavioral studies? Nothing invasive, just observations and simple problem-solving tests that could help us understand how Goliath developed these remarkable abilities? As the sun began to set over Willowbrook Valley, Marcus reflected on a day that had started with coffee on his porch and ended with his bull becoming a subject of scientific fascination. The python was secured and headed for a proper facility, his calf was safe, and Goliath had proven himself to be far more than just another bull. How do you think this extraordinary encounter will change the way researchers study animal intelligence and problem-solving in farm animals? The phone calls began at dawn the next morning, transforming Marcus Fletcher's quiet ranch into an unexpected hub of scientific attention. Dr. Patricia Thornfield from the University of Montana's Animal Cognition Laboratory was the first to contact him, followed quickly by researchers from Colorado State University, UC Davis, and even Oxford University in England. Each caller expressed fascination with Goliath's tactical performance against the python and requested permission to conduct behavioral studies on the remarkable bull. Mr. Fletcher, what your animal demonstrated yesterday challenges 50 years of research on cattle intelligence, Dr. Thornfield explained during her call. We've documented tool use in some cattle, but nothing approaching the level of tactical planning and adaptive problem-solving that witnesses described. This could reshape our understanding of farm animal cognition. Marcus found himself in the unusual position of fielding interview requests from National Geographic, Animal Planet, and BBC Wildlife, while trying to maintain his normal ranch operations. Goliath, seemingly unaware of his newfound fame, continued his routine of patrol and protection, though Marcus noticed the bull paid extra attention to the areas where the python encounter had occurred. Dr. Elena Vasquez returned to the ranch with a team of behavioral specialists and equipment designed to document animal cognition without causing stress or interference. Their approach involves setting up remote cameras and designing simple problem-solving scenarios that would reveal how Goliath processed information and made decisions. We want to understand whether yesterday's performance was an isolated response to extreme circumstances, or if Goliath routinely demonstrates this level of cognitive ability, explained Dr. Michael Chen, a specialist in large animal behavior, who had flown in from California specifically to observe the famous bull. The first series of tests involved spatial reasoning and obstacle navigation. The researchers created a simple maze using portable fencing, with Goliath's favorite treats placed at various points throughout the course. Most cattle would wander through such a setup randomly, eventually finding the rewards through trial and error. Goliath approached the challenge differently. He's mapping the entire course before making any moves, Dr. Thornfield observed, watching through binoculars as Goliath stood at the maze entrance and systematically examined each visible pathway. That's strategic planning behavior that we typically associate with primates, not livestock. When Goliath finally entered the maze, his movement pattern revealed sophisticated spatial reasoning. Instead of pursuing the closest reward, he chose a route that allowed him to collect multiple treats efficiently while avoiding dead ends. The bull completed the course in half the time that previous studies had recorded for similar tests with other cattle. The second test involved problem-solving under pressure. The researchers created a scenario where Buttercup appeared to be trapped in a fenced area with only one exit, a gate secured by a simple latch mechanism. Most protective bulls would attempt to break through the fence or call for human assistance. Goliath studied the situation for several minutes, then deliberately manipulated the latch with his nose until the gate opened. Unprecedented, Dr. Chen muttered into his recording device. Subject demonstrates understanding of mechanical cause and effect, manipulates tool-like mechanism to achieve desired outcome. This level of problem-solving suggests cognitive abilities comparable to higher primates. The media attention intensified throughout the week. CNN ran a feature story about the bull who outsmarted a python, while social media exploded with videos and memes celebrating Goliath's heroic encounter. The ranch became an unofficial tourist destination, with visitors driving from neighboring states hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous bull. Marcus initially felt overwhelmed by the attention, but he gradually recognized the positive aspects of Goliath's fame. The scientific interest was advancing understanding of animal intelligence, while the media coverage was educating the public about cattle cognition and the complexity of farm animal behavior. This changes how we need to think about livestock welfare and management, Dr. Vasquez explained during a filmed interview. If cattle possess the kind of intelligence Goliath has demonstrated, we need to reconsider our approaches to housing, enrichment, and social structures for these animals. The python, meanwhile, had been successfully relocated to a specialized reptile facility in Colorado, where it would live out its days in a secure environment designed for large constrictors. Wildlife officials confirmed that the trafficking ring responsible for the snake's theft had been arrested, with federal charges pending for violations of exotic animal transport regulations. Dr. Vasquez's preliminary report on the incident was scheduled for publication in the Journal of Animal Behavior, with additional papers planned for specialized cognitive research publications. The scientific community was eager to understand how a farm-raised bull had developed such sophisticated problem-solving abilities. We're looking at nature versus nurture questions that could revolutionize animal husbandry, Dr. Thornfield explained to Marcus. Was Goliath born with exceptional intelligence, or did his environment and experiences as a herd protector develop these abilities? The answers could help us improve conditions for millions of farm animals. As the week of testing concluded, Marcus felt a new appreciation for Goliath's remarkable mind. The bull wasn't just a protective guardian. He was a thinking, reasoning individual whose intelligence deserved recognition and respect. What do you think these discoveries about cattle intelligence might mean for the future of farming and animal welfare practices? 3 weeks after the python encounter, Goliath's story had traveled around the world, sparking conversations about animal intelligence in languages Marcus Fletcher had never heard spoken. The ranch mailbox overflowed daily with letters from children, farmers, scientists, and animal lovers from 6 continents, all expressing amazement at the bull's heroic performance and tactical brilliance. The Temple Grandin Institute at Colorado State University announced a comprehensive study of farm animal cognition inspired directly by Goliath's demonstration of advanced problem-solving. Dr. Grandin herself visited the ranch to observe the famous bull, spending 3 hours documenting his behavior patterns and social interactions with the herd. This animal is rewriting textbooks, Dr. Grandin announced during her visit. The tactical thinking, the spatial awareness, the adaptive problem-solving, these are capabilities we've underestimated in cattle for decades. Goliath is proof that farm animals possess far more complex cognitive abilities than traditional agriculture has recognized. The international attention brought unexpected opportunities. The BBC commissioned a full documentary about the encounter, with filming scheduled to begin the following month. National Geographic expressed interest in featuring Goliath in their annual Heroes of the Animal Kingdom special. Even Disney's animal documentary division had inquired about potential projects. Marcus found himself adjusting to life as the caretaker of a celebrity bull. Tourism to Willowbrook Valley had increased dramatically, with the local Chamber of Commerce estimating that Goliath visitors were contributing over $50,000 monthly to the regional economy. Hotels, restaurants, and gift shops throughout the area reported unprecedented business from people making pilgrimages to see the bull who had defeated a python. The scientific research continued to yield remarkable results. Dr. Thornfield's team had documented evidence of Goliath teaching problem-solving techniques to younger bulls in the herd, demonstrating not only intelligence but the ability to transfer knowledge to others. This discovery suggested that cattle could develop and share sophisticated behavioral strategies within their social groups. We're observing educational behavior between cattle that mirrors what we see in dolphin pods or primate troops, Dr. Thornfield explained to the growing number of researchers studying Goliath's cognitive abilities. This bull isn't just individually intelligent, he's contributing to the collective intelligence of his entire herd. The agricultural industry had taken notice as well. Progressive farmers from around the world began implementing Goliath protocols, management practices designed to stimulate cognitive development in cattle through environmental enrichment and problem-solving challenges. Early results suggested that cattle raised with cognitive stimulation showed improved health, reduced stress, and enhanced social behaviors. Marcus received a call from Dr. James Morrison, head of the USDA's Animal Welfare Research Division, requesting permission to establish a permanent research station at the ranch. The facility would serve as a center for studying farm animal cognition while generating income for Marcus through research partnerships and educational programs. Mr. Fletcher, Goliath has started a revolution in how we understand animal intelligence, Dr. Morrison explained. This ranch could become ground zero for discoveries that improve the lives of millions of farm animals worldwide. We're prepared to offer substantial funding for a long-term research partnership. The offer was tempting, but Marcus wanted to ensure that any research program would respect Goliath's welfare and maintain the ranch's operational integrity. After consulting with Dr. Vasquez and several animal welfare experts, he agreed to a partnership that would allow ongoing research while protecting his animals' quality of life. International recognition came in the form of the Global Animal Welfare Award, presented annually by the World Wildlife Federation to animals who demonstrate exceptional intelligence or heroism. Goliath would be the first farm animal ever to receive the honor, with the presentation ceremony scheduled to take place at the ranch to minimize stress on the famous bull. This award recognizes not just Goliath's individual achievement, but what his story represents for all farm animals, explained Dr. Sarah Martinez, WWF's Director of Animal Intelligence Research. His heroic encounter with the python has opened minds and hearts to the cognitive complexity of animals we've underestimated for too long. The local community had embraced their unexpected fame with enthusiasm. Willowbrook Valley declared an annual Goliath Day celebration featuring educational programs about animal intelligence, farm animal welfare workshops, and guided tours of Marcus's ranch. Schools from across the region organized field trips to meet the famous bull and learn about cognitive behavior in farm animals. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. A letter arrived from Dr. Amanda Foster, a researcher studying cattle behavior in Scotland, explaining how Goliath's story had inspired new protective legislation for farm animals throughout the European Union. Your bull's demonstration of intelligence has provided crucial evidence for arguments about animal sentience and cognitive rights, Dr. Foster wrote. The European Parliament cited Goliath's tactical behavior when passing new regulations requiring cognitive enrichment for all farm animals. One bull's heroic moment is improving conditions for millions of animals worldwide. The ripple effects of that terrifying morning encounter continued to spread, touching lives and changing perspectives in ways Marcus could never have imagined. Veterinary schools were adding courses on animal cognition to their curricula. Agricultural colleges were revising their animal husbandry programs to include cognitive enrichment strategies. Even elementary schools were using Goliath's story to teach children about animal intelligence and empathy. As Marcus stood in his pasture that evening, watching Goliath peacefully graze with the same calm confidence he'd always displayed, he marveled at how one moment of crisis had revealed depths of intelligence that had been there all along, waiting to be recognized and celebrated. 6 months after the python encounter that changed everything, Marcus Fletcher stood on his porch watching the sun set over what had become the most famous ranch in Montana. The Goliath Research Center was nearing completion, its state-of-the-art facilities designed to study animal cognition while maintaining the peaceful atmosphere that had allowed his remarkable bull to thrive. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus that a facility dedicated to understanding animal intelligence had been funded entirely by the intelligence of one extraordinary animal. Dr. Elena Vasquez had accepted the position as the center's director, relocating from California to oversee what promised to become the world's premier facility for farm animal cognitive research. Her team had expanded to include specialists from 12 countries, each bringing unique perspectives on animal intelligence and behavior. The ranch that had once housed a simple cattle operation now served as headquarters for research that was reshaping scientific understanding of consciousness across species. Marcus, the preliminary results from our global cattle intelligence study are remarkable, Dr. Vasquez reported during their weekly meeting. We've identified elevated cognitive abilities in cattle herds worldwide, suggesting that Goliath's intelligence isn't unique, but rather represents capabilities that exist throughout the species when properly nurtured and recognized. The discovery that Goliath's exceptional abilities might be more common than initially believed had profound implications for agriculture and animal welfare. Farms implementing cognitive enrichment programs reported improved animal health, reduced behavioral problems, and surprisingly increased productivity as intelligent animals proved more efficient at everything from feeding to breeding management. Buttercup, the calf whose near-death experience had triggered the entire chain of events, had grown into a healthy young cow who displayed her own impressive problem-solving abilities. Dr. Chen's behavioral studies suggested that her early exposure to Goliath's protective intelligence had accelerated her own cognitive development, supporting theories about social learning in cattle. The documentary, The Bull Who Changed Everything, had premiered on National Geographic to record-breaking viewership, earning 3 Emmy nominations and sparking global conversations about animal consciousness. The film's success had generated funding for similar research programs in Australia, Brazil, and Kenya, creating an international network of facilities dedicated to understanding and supporting animal intelligence. Marcus received daily updates about the python that had inadvertently become part of this remarkable story. The massive serpent, now named Catalyst by researchers at the Colorado facility, was thriving in captivity and serving as an ambassador for education about exotic animal trafficking. The irony that both animals involved in the encounter had become symbols of their respective species wasn't lost on anyone following their stories. The economic impact on Willowbrook Valley had exceeded all projections. The town had transformed from a quiet agricultural community into a destination for scientists, tourists, and animal lovers from around the world. New businesses catering to visitors had created hundreds of jobs, while property values had increased substantially as people sought to live near the famous ranch. Children's letters continued to arrive by the hundreds, many including drawings of Goliath fighting the python or protecting Buttercup. Marcus had started a scholarship fund using proceeds from merchandising rights, providing educational opportunities for young people interested in veterinary science or animal behavior. The fund had already supported 30 students pursuing careers in animal-related fields. The Global Animal Welfare Awards ceremony had drawn delegates from 47 countries to witness Goliath receive recognition for his heroic encounter. The bull had accepted the attention with his characteristic calm dignity, seeming to understand that the humans gathering around him meant no harm. The ceremony raised over $2 million for animal welfare organizations worldwide. International legislation continued to evolve in response to research, inspired by Goliath's demonstration of intelligence. The United Nations had established new guidelines for farm animal welfare that required cognitive enrichment in all member nations. The European Union had gone further, granting legal recognition to farm animals as sentient beings, deserving protection from psychological as well as physical harm. Dr. Thornfield's longitudinal study of Goliath's cognitive abilities had revealed evidence of continued learning and adaptation even as the bull aged. At 9 years old, he continued to develop new problem-solving strategies and teaching methods for younger animals in the herd. The research suggested that cattle intelligence might be far more dynamic and adaptable than previously understood. The agricultural industry had embraced what became known as the Goliath Revolution, with progressive farmers worldwide implementing intelligence-based management practices. Conferences on farm animal cognition drew thousands of attendees annually, sharing research and techniques for supporting animal intelligence while maintaining productive agricultural operations. As Marcus reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with a terrifying attack on his calf, he realized that Goliath's heroism had accomplished something far greater than saving one animal's life. The bull's tactical brilliance had opened human minds to the reality of animal consciousness, sparking a global movement toward more humane and intelligent approaches to animal care. Standing in the pasture where the legendary encounter had occurred, Marcus watched Goliath peacefully grazing with his herd, still the vigilant protector, but now recognized as something more. A teacher, a hero, and proof that intelligence and compassion exist throughout the animal kingdom, waiting for humans wise enough to recognize and celebrate these remarkable qualities. The python attack that could have been a tragedy had instead become the catalyst for a revolution in human understanding of animal intelligence. One bull's moment of heroism had changed the world's perspective on farm animals forever, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries come from the most unexpected encounters. What do you think the future holds for human-animal relationships now that we better understand the intelligence and emotional complexity of farm animals like Goliath?